تبارك وتعالى، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، إلها أحدا فردا صمدا حيا قيوما، لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد، وترحم على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله ونظم أمركم وصلاح ذات البين، فإنها خير من عامة الصلاة والصيام. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. One of the most honorable and noble tasks and acts in Islam is to guide other people, is to show people the correct path and guide people to the religion of Islam, guide people to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reward of guiding an individual is so great, greater than anything we can imagine. In the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi told Amir al-Mu'mineen, before sending him to Khaybar, before sending him to fight in Khaybar, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, before sending Imam Ali to fight, he tells him, try to guide them. Try to show them the way first. And this is the message of Islam: diplomacy and talking before resorting to force and resorting to violence. Amir al-Mu'mineen was sent, but Rasulullah tells him, Ya Ali, لَإِنْ يَهْدِيَ اللَّهُ بِكَ رَجُلًا وَاحِدٍ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِمَّا طَلَعَتْ عَلَيْهِ الشَّمْسِ. If Allah guides through you one person, the reward that you will receive by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is anything that is greater than anything that sees the light of the sun. What sees the light of the sun? Everything that you could imagine sees the light of the sun. He tells him the reward is greater than that. So this is why hidayah is very important in Islam. And when we talk about hidayah, who is it that truly guides individuals? Am I guiding? Where does hidayah come from? Where does guidance, real guidance? If you see someone is guided and someone is misguided, someone is on the right track and someone is on the wrong track, who is guiding this person? Is it me? The answer is no. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who guides. The hidayah, real and true guidance, comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who guides. مَنْ يَهْدِ اللَّهُ فَهُوَ الْمُهْتَدِ وَمَنْ يُضْلِلْ فَلَنْ تَجِدَ لَهُ وَلِيًّا مُرْشَدًا. The one who Allah guides is the one who's guided. And the one who Allah does not guide, then this person will be misguided. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides everyone. Allah gives everyone an opportunity to be guided. However, some people accept the guidance from Allah, the hidayah, and others reject the hidayah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, there were individuals from Quraysh that Rasulullah was worried about. Rasulullah wanted to guide certain individuals and they were rejecting and refusing the hidayah. So Rasulullah was worried. Rasulullah was very concerned. He wants to guide people. And he was very concerned about certain individuals. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. You cannot guide those who you want to guide. The guidance, the real guidance, comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why if you have been guided, if you have been shown the way, if you are praying, you're fasting, you're on the right track with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to thank Allah for this guidance. This is why we have to always say, Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana lihada wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. We praise Allah that He guided us. So what significance does it mean? They're being forced to do this. This is why there are several other ways that we have to guide other people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرْ لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُصَيْطِرْ. Your job, Ya Rasulullah, is to remind people. Your job is to guide people. Your job is to teach people. فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرْ. You are only a reminder. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُصَيْطِرْ. You cannot force people to believe in the religion. And similarly, in Ayatul Kursi, we recite, لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. There's no compulsion in religion because false is very clear from that which is right. And the story of why this verse was revealed was when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa migrated from Mecca to Medina. And there were individuals from the Ansar. They had, before Rasulullah migrated to Medina, they had kept their kids with some of the Jewish and Christian tribes because they wanted the Jewish tribes to teach their children how to read, how to write. Because before Rasulullah migrated, the Jewish tribes were much more advanced in their reading, in their writing, than the Jahiliyyah, those who were idol worshippers. So some of them, they put their children with the Jewish tribes, and then Rasulullah migrated to Medina. When Rasulullah migrated to Medina, the fathers accepted Islam. Then they go and they tell their children, come and join Islam with us. Their children tell them, no, we're fine. We want to remain Jewish or Christian. So these parents, they come to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa and they tell Rasulullah, should we force Islam upon our children? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa this verse comes down, Ayatul Kursi, لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى. The false is very clear from the haqq, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given every one of us the intellect, the aql, and the ability to make decisions. At the end of the day, everyone is responsible for the decision that they make. This is why everyone will be rewarded or punished for the decision that they make, not for someone else's decision. لا إكراه في الدين. So what does لا إكراه في الدين mean? لا إكراه في الدين, it means you cannot. There's two tafsirs of this. One tafsir says, you cannot force religion and beliefs upon people, even if you wanted to. Can you force someone to love and hate? You can't. Love and hate is a feeling in the heart. Similarly, faith, it's in the heart. Can you force that upon someone? You can't. Another way to look at it, according to the tafsir of Sahib al-Mizan, he says, La ikrah fi din, don't force religion upon people. One meaning says you cannot, even if you wanted to. This is an order, don't. You're not ordered to force religion and beliefs upon other people. Now here's a question. Some people, they come and they say Islam was spread by the sword. Rasulullah, did he spread Islam by the sword? The answer is no. Rasulullah, yes. Rasulullah had to engage in battles. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa there were wars and battles. The battle of Badr, the battle of Uhud, the battle of Hunayn, the battle of Khaybar. There were battles. But these battles were not to force Islam upon people. These battles had their own reason. One of them, because the kuffar, they come and they attack the Muslims. Aren't the Muslims supposed to defend themselves? Rasulullah is the head of state, he's a leader, he's a military commander, he has to defend the Muslims. In another case, one group of people, they break the oath. There were several tribes of the Jews, they had a mithaq. They had an oath, a treaty with the Muslims, they broke it. They broke it, they betrayed the Muslims. So now, Rasulullah, not to force religion upon them, but because he's a head of state, because he's a ruler, he engaged in battle, but not to force Islam. And Amir al-Mu'mineen and the other Imams did not. Yes, there were times in history after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa where some of the other Khulafa, which we don't agree with, that what they did was correct. If every Khalifa we have to agree with and we have to say where Islam is responsible for this Khalifa, then that means Imam Hussein was killed by Yazid, who was a Khalifa. Is that a correct act? No, of course not. So we don't accept the actions of all of the Khulafa. And here we see that the main proof that Islam was not forced upon people is the fact that Islam continued to grow even after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa. Today you see ideologies. For example, communism. The Soviet Union, they had conquered half of the world. But as soon as their power lost, that's it. Their ideology, their beliefs are gone. The Ba'ath Party, the Nazis, they came, they tried to spread an ideology, their ideology is gone. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa, he came and he left, and Islam continued. In fact, you see some conquerors, the Mongols, they conquered Iraq, they conquered Baghdad and a huge stretch of the Muslim land. They conquered as non-Muslims, but by the time they conquered, they ended up becoming Muslims. So the army that comes and conquers the Muslims, they end up joining Islam. What does this mean? This means that Islam is a universal religion. Islam is connected with the hearts. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, how should we spread Islam? We said Hidayah comes from God. The reward of Hidayah is very high, very important, and you cannot spread your beliefs with force. So what is the formula? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains it to us. Inshallah, in the second khutbah, we will explain the Quranic formula on spreading the religion of Islam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar fasalli li rabbika wanhar. Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه نحمده ونسبحه ونقدسه على آلائه ونعمائه من يهد الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلا هادي له من بعده وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد وترحم على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين وقائد الغر المحجلين إلى جنات النعيم وصل اللهم على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين وصل اللهم على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة وصل اللهم على أئمة المسلمين وحماة الدين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة الخلف الهادي المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. What is the formula of spreading Islam according to the Quran? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in a very beautiful verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Id'u ila sabili rabbik, invite people, id'u, guide people, do da'wah, for the sake of your Lord. Id'u ila sabili rabbik bil hikmah, with wisdom. Id'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal maw'izati al hasana, and good admonishments. Wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan. And if anyone is debating with you, if anyone is arguing with you, then you debate in the best way possible. then you don't resort to shouting, you don't resort to fighting, you don't resort to violence. You have to show people the beauty of the religion of Islam. ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة. You have to have wisdom. You have to have hikmah when you're telling people about Islam. A lot of people, they try, maybe they have a good intention. They want to guide people, but they end up making people run away from Islam. They end up making people hate Islam. They say, what kind of a religion is this? Is this how Rasulullah spread the religion of Islam? No. Rasulullah, within 23 years, he was extremely successful in changing the whole Arabian Peninsula into loving him and believing in him and saying, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Why? Because of his akhlaq, because of his mercy. So, how do I guide people to Islam through hikmah? One is that I need to know about the religion of Islam. Today, a lot of people, they say, I want to guide people, but they don't know anything about the religion of Islam. How are you going to guide people if you yourself do not know and you do not have a clue about the religion of Islam? This is why, my dear brothers and sisters, before worrying about others, some of us were only concerned about what they're not praying right, they're not doing this correctly, they're not doing that correctly. Go and check yourself. Ask yourself, am I praying correctly? Am I doing my wudu correctly? Do I know the ahkam? Do I know the religion of Islam? Let me be more concerned with myself before I am concerned about other people. And perhaps I will be able to teach myself one or two things. So, how do we teach ourselves? We have to seek knowledge. Before guiding other people, I need to be well learned about the religion of Islam. And the hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen, or one of the Imams says, أيها الناس اعلموا أن كمال الدين طلب العلم والعمل به. O people, know that your religion will be complete when you seek knowledge and you act upon that which you know. طلب العلم والعمل به. Ilm is knowledge, seeking knowledge. Amal is when you're giving out that which you know. And then he says, وَإِنَّ طَلَبَ الْعِلْمِ أَوْجَبْ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ طَلَبِ الْمَالِ. Seeking knowledge is more wajib, it's more obligatory upon you than seeking wealth. Because your wealth is destined for you. Allah has promised, this is how much wealth you're going to have, this is how much rizq you're going to have. But the ilm, that's hidayah, you need to work for that. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, إِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِعَبْدٍ خَيْرًا فَقَّهَهُ فِي الدِّينِ وَأَلْهَمَهُ الْيَقِينِ. If Allah wants a abd to have khair, to have good, then Allah will endow this person with knowledge in deen, in religion. فَقَّهَهُ فِي الدِّينِ. Now, seeking all types of knowledge is important. But I'm not going to be asked on the Day of Judgment about some useless knowledge or some other type of knowledge that might not help me. But I'm going to be asked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about deen. So this is one. In order to guide people, you need to guide yourself. Second, you need to practice what you preach. There are some people, they come and they're just being a police. You do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, but they're not practicing themselves. This is nifaq. This is hypocrisy. When you're telling people to do something and you're not doing it yourself. There's a statement in Arabic, it says, طَبِيبٌ يُدَاوِ النَّاسِ وَهُوَ عَلِيلُ. The doctor is curing people and he himself is sick. Are people going to trust this doctor? No one's going to trust this doctor. Now, so this is an example of someone trying to guide others, yet they themselves, they are not practicing that which they preach. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa was the best example of someone who practices what he preaches. Amir al-Mu'mineen used to practice what he preaches. Imam al-Hussein, the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, they used to practice. One day Rasulullah, this is a beautiful story, a man comes, tells Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, my son is eating too much dates. Tell my son to stop. Tell my son to control himself. Rasulullah tells him, okay, come tomorrow. The man, he brings his son the next day. Rasulullah tells him, don't eat too much, it's bad for you, and all that. And the kid was convinced. The father, he tells Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, it was so easy for you. Why did you tell me to come tomorrow? You could have just said it yesterday. Rasulullah told him, because yesterday I had dates. He ate dates yesterday. So he said, I don't want to be someone who tells people don't do something, and I myself, I did it. So We have to practice what we preach, and this is how Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar works. Some people, they want to do Amr bil Ma'ruf, but they don't want to impose it on themselves. Another very important method of guiding people, which falls under Id'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah, with wisdom, is to use reason. Use common sense when you talk to people. At the end of the day, you're not talking to animals. At the end of the day, you're talking to humans that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the aql, gave them the ability to make decisions, and people, they have intellect. Why should we belittle people? Today, some religions, some cults, some groups of people, they belittle people. You're not allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to say why. You're not allowed to say this. Why? Islam is a religion of common sense. Islam is a beautiful, logical religion. We don't tell people just believe. No, go and read, go and do research. Yes, once you've done research, and then there comes a point where you have to do ta'abbud. There comes a point where our minds are not going to comprehend everything. For example, why do I need to pray? Why is there a God? Do I believe in God? Go and do as much research as you want. Believe in that. But then later on, once you have already believed in God, you believed in Islam, you believed in Rasulullah, now it's not going to help you to come and ask, why do I pray Maghrib 3 prayers and Isha 4 prayers? Because our aql does not comprehend these things. This is ta'abbud. This is, now I have to submit to Allah. But I've done my research to know why I have to submit to Allah. I've been convinced as to why I am submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, when you're guiding people, use the aql, use common sense, use logic. Value people's aql, value people's time, value people's efforts to engage their intellect. People have intellect. Today there are some speakers, they come, I had this dream and that dream. You don't need to tell people about dreams when you can tell people about the Quran, you can tell people about certain things that are solid. Don't rely on emotions. Rely on facts. Rely on real information to be able to convince people. The fourth, my dear brothers and sisters, which falls under al-hikmah, is to guide people through mercy. Show people the love of Islam. Show people the akhlaq of Islam. Show people the beauty of Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. It is out of the mercy of God that you became merciful towards people. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you were rude, if you did not tolerate people, if you're going to yell at this person, do takfir, you're kafir, you're going to hell, you're going to hell, then of course, who's going to listen to you? Rasulullah was not like that. Rasulullah was a very compassionate person. Rasulullah was a very loving person. And I believe that if we Muslims truly follow in the akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, Islam would be much different than where it is right now. People would be flocking towards the religion of Islam the same way when they saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, they began to enter يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. Once Rasulullah was given the opportunity to show his beauty and his akhlaq and his mercy to people, everyone was attracted to him. Fifth and final point, my dear brothers and sisters, Islam is a religion of service. You don't always need to guide people going and telling them. Sometimes you could go and do someone a favor. Go and do a good deed towards someone, whether they're Muslim or not Muslim. You show them a good deed, people will come to you. One of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, I saw Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq at night. He goes by an area where there was a homeless shelter, basically. An area where there were poor people, they're sleeping outside. He said, I was following the Imam. He goes and he places a piece of bread under the head, under the pillow of everyone who is sleeping. He goes, he says, I saw him. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, I saw him, he's putting a piece of bread under the pillow of those who were sleeping. So then the companion, he says, I told the Imam, oh my master, are they all from us? Meaning, are they all your followers? Are they all Shia? The Imam, he says, no, they're not all from us, but we have to show them service. And if they were from us, لَوَاسَيْنَاهُمْ بِالْمِلْحِ If they were from us, I would have added salt to it. Meaning I would have given more. Even if they were with us, I would give more. But sometimes basic acts of service. Basic acts of service to other people. Even if they're not Muslim. Even if they're atheists. At the end of the day, every stomach gets hungry. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, feed that stomach. I will love the one who gives those who feed in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the best form of da'wah, my dear brothers and sisters. You want to guide people to Islam? Sometimes you don't need to speak. Sometimes you don't need to say anything. Imam Sadiq, he says, كُونُوا دُعَاةً لَنَا بِغَيْرِ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ. Call people to us without your tongues. How could you do it without your tongues? Through your actions, through your akhlaq, through your manners. And then he says, لِيَرَوْا مِنْكُمُ الْوَرَعَ وَالْإِجْتِهَادَ وَالصَّلَاةَ وَالْخَيْرِ فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ دَاعِيَةٌ. He says, let them see in you your wara', your fear of God. Let them see in you your salah. Let them see in you your ijtihad, your struggle in the way of Allah. Let them see the salah and the good. Then that will bring people to you. That will bring people to the religion of Islam. My dear brothers and sisters, another point that I wanted to mention before we conclude is that a few days ago there was a terrorist attack on a Shi'i shrine. And this is the shrine of the son of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim and the brother of Imam al-Rida, Ahmad ibn Musa. Ahmad ibn Musa is the brother of Ali ibn Musa. Ali ibn Musa al-Rida is Imam al-Rida. This is Ahmad ibn Musa, the son of Imam al-Kadhim. And this was a terrorist attack. Daesh, ISIS, they came and they claimed responsibility. They said, this was us. And they shot and they killed 15 people. 15 people who are worshipping, who are praying, who have nothing to do with what's going on. They came and they shot them. And our job is to condemn any acts of violence that go on. Any act of oppression that goes on. We as Muslims, we need to condemn that. And we need to stand with the oppressed. We need to stand with the madlumeen. And here, the point that I want to make is the double standards that we see in the media today. For the past month and a half, the media, the news has been giving 24-hour coverage to the protests that are going on in Iran. And we do not want anyone to be oppressed. Some of those protesters, they have some legitimate demands that they're asking for. And we wish that everyone who feels oppressed for that oppression to be gone. But my point here is the double standards of the media that we're seeing right now. A terrorist attack takes place and the media does not give it coverage. The media does not talk about it. If this terrorist attack were to happen in Paris, if this were to happen anywhere in Europe, if this were to happen anywhere in America or Canada, would we get the silence from the media? Of course not. We would see coverage. We would see it covered very well in the media. But we see that there are double standards when it comes to the media and colonialist powers, where they're giving coverage to what's going on in Iran, where it suits them. But where it does not suit them, they do not give it coverage. Where innocent people, what's the difference? If you're worried about a life, if you're worried about someone being killed, then someone was killed, 15 people were shot dead. Why didn't you say anything about them? Why aren't you talking about them? And this is something, my dear brothers and sisters, that we need to be very careful of. We need to be very alert. Sometimes the media, the information that they put out is not all clear. The intentions behind those who are putting out things, we have to be very careful not to fall in the traps of the media. Sometimes they come and they set attention to certain things and they remove attention from certain things wherever it suits their own political interests. And we have to be very careful from that. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات